Introduction first.
All right, good evening, each and everyone. Thank you for attending our session this evening. We have with us Mr. Nicholas Elliott. So Nicholas prefers that you call him Nick, by the way. All right. With us tonight to do a session on box training. And we are glad to have him. And with this, I'll just turn over to Allan. Allan will go into more details and take it from there. I'll just ask everyone to at least put your mic on mute. You can keep your video on, but put your mic on mute, all right? Unless, of course, there's something in the background that you don't want anybody to see, you can take your video off. It's up to you, all right? But yeah, I'll turn over to Allan now, and Allan will take it from here.
Right, so good night again to the members of the Universal Schützen Club and our guest trainer, speaker, lecturer tonight, Mr. Nicholas Elliott, better known as Nick. Nick, everything. What's up, Nick? Good night.
Good night, all. I think my video might be a bit delayed. You all hearing me though?
Yeah.
We are hearing you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Cool. All right.
Good, good. All right, so happy to have you here to our safe at home training session. You know, we've been doing it for the past month and a bit, and it's been going great. I'm hoping that Nicholas, are you still there with us?
Yeah, I'm here. You hear me?
Yeah, hearing you. Just the video.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, that's like one of them foreign movies because you'll hear me and then you'll see me say the words about 5 minutes later.
All right. Well,
it looks like the video is a bit delayed.
Yeah. Well, I think once we hear you, I think that is, and I believe everybody's hearing you loud and clear as I am.
Yeah.
So glad to have you on. You know, I'm gonna allow you to say a bit about yourself, but your name is well known throughout the islands, Trinidad and Tobago and the other islands. I know you've been doing work for different police services and paramilitary groups throughout the Caribbean. I know you have extensive experience in Europe with regards to dogs, and you've been in, I don't know how many years you've been training dogs, but I'll leave that for you. But I'm just saying this to say that we're very happy to have somebody with your level of expertise here on our forum, you know, to impart your knowledge on us with regards to a specific topic today. You know, maybe more in the future we may call upon you. I hope you're willing to do so. But I know we're going to specific topic today. So would you like to say something? Or let me just what I would want to do first is just to give a quick introduction to the members on the forum here tonight. So we have our Mr. Roger Barkley, who is like the father of the club, and one of our head trainers, and the person who hosts the club for all these years. So we have Roger. We also have his neighbor, Cody, young handler. You all can turn on your video now so you can see who it is.
I think I saw a couple of videos with Cody online. You would have posted.
Yeah. Cody is a person that is very much on social.
I'm sorry, I'm eating right now.
Yeah, that's okay. So Cody has a young German Shepherd that she bred. It's just under a year old, I believe, a female. And
she turned a year a couple of days ago.
Okay, great. So she's doing her, you know, very much heading towards IPO. We have Dareem Mohammed. Dareem is hailing from the Southlands. He has a kennel doing quite a lot of good breedings, putting a lot of good dogs out there. And he has a couple dogs that he's training, both for IPO, and we're doing some ring sport work with one of them as well. So we have Dareem. We have two guests from the German Shepherd Breed Club who are like, you know, also, you know, members of the club, so to speak. Ajamu Williams, you know who he is, has a very good German Shepherd breeding kennel, and he also has a young dog that he's training at the moment. We also have Jonathan De Matas up from Maracas side. He also breeds working line German Shepherds and training. Jonathan, how many dogs are training now? 2?
Currently 1.
Currently one. All right. As the dog a buffet to train, right?
Oh, two. Sorry. Yes.
Right. Good. 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 All right. So we are right. So that's Jonathan. We have Courtney, and I believe we have Lisa on as well. I'm not seeing her, but I believe that's husband and wife duo. They have a 3-month-old Rottweiler puppy from Iran.
Nice.
Courtney. We have on as well Gerard and Kyle. They have a Presa Canario puppy from Carlon.
Okay.
We also have Carlon on, who is the in-house Presa Canario breeder slash he promotes his breed very much so. And
Carlon created movie stars.
Yeah. He provides all those services. So you have Carlon, but he is very much adamant about promoting the Presa Canario breed here as an all-round dog for both good for doing sport work and personal protection and family dog. We have Joseph Cox here. He also is doing a bit of breeding and very much into heavy training for Schutzen sport. So Joseph, I think he has 2 dogs he's training at the moment. We have Josh. Josh has a puppy from Roger, German Shepherd as well, training for Schutzen sport. He has 2 dogs. We have Kim. Kim has a sibling to the puppy that Josh have from Roger as well. She's also she started off wanting just to train her dog to be a good pet, and now she is very enthusiastic about training her dog for the sport.
Nice.
Allan, just a correction. That litter was bred by Terran Compton, eh?
Oh, it was Terran. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good correction to make. So it's so that's Terran Compton. He's another member of the club, but I'm not sure if he's here at the moment.
Right.
Yeah, Terran on.
Terran on. So we have Christian. Krys is our club medic. So and he's also the person with the Doberman in the group. He is also started off as doing pet training with myself, and then he came to a couple of sessions and watched down on the club, and that was it. He's now totally hooked, dangerously hooked on training his dog for sport.
Hello.
Yes.
Very good.
I'm correct with that, right? That is correct, right?
Well, it's a big hook.
It's a very big hook. Yeah. So be careful with that, eh? Right. So we have, we have Mark Wingasu, who is another one of our trainers and long-standing members. Mark currently has a Rottweiler puppy from Iran as well that he's training. So Mark, good to have you on. I know he's a busy guy.
Hi, good night.
Right. Good night, Mark. We have Stephan Mongal Singh. I think he needs no introduction. He would have done some training with you as well, and he's been a member of the club for a while.
Shashi Kapoor.
You know the guy.
Yeah, man.
We have also Sandrina. We have Sandrina. Sandrina is our youngest member of the club. She also wants to be a decoy as well as Cody. She has a German Shepherd puppy from the same litter with Terran Compton bred, a very nice black female. And Sandrina is one of those who is very, very enthusiastic about training. I think, we have the best young crop of handlers coming up. We have Stephan. Stephan also would have bred a litter recently, sired by Rogers Mail, and he has a puppy from that he is currently training. So we're happy to have Stephan here. Stephan, you at work or you're home?
Yes, at work at this point in time.
Right. So Stephan is taking
Nice to be here.
Stephan is the guy who just be in his car. When he had training session, he will leave work and go in his car and session, but he's not missing. Right?
All right, great.
We have Terran Compton here as well. Terran is also one of the trainers in the club and one of the longest standing members. He's very much into breeding dogs. I think he has a litter or 2 right now and training about 3 dogs at the moment. So Terran, good to have you here. Good night.
Yeah, good night, everybody.
Right. I did not leave out anybody. Courtney, I didn't hear you, man. Oh, we have our one of our original training directors here as well, Mr. Kurt Moses, no stranger to the dog training community in the country. He was on a little hiatus for a while, but he's back with a bang now, and we're very happy to have him back.
Yeah, thanks, Allan.
Easy.
Actually, Nicholas and I started around the same time. As well, he used to train with Kava Felix.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with that training, the bug bite Nicholas. Nicholas started before me. When I came there, I saw Nicholas now starting to get bite and that kind of thing, you know? So,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't say how many years ago, right? Because
I'm now going to say, well, the plan was my age was 25, but then I realized I trained longer than that.
So now that, and then we met up at BWI after.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So, correct.
Yeah,
right. So, I mean, Nicholas, you take it away now. I mean, I would like you to say a little bit about yourself. I don't think you need to say all because we may spend the entire night here. But give us a little idea of, I think everybody should. It's worth it for them to understand when they hear the name Nicholas Elliott, what that means to dog training. So you take it away.
Yeah. Good night, everyone. And well, first I want to say thank you for having me on tonight. It's an honor and a pleasure to be able to share information. And as I told you, Allan, when we spoke, that I was really heartened by this initiative that you all have, and I think definitely you all are showing great leadership in terms of moving things forward. So kudos to the team in terms of what you all have been able to accomplish so far and continue to accomplish. You all definitely leading the way and leading us in the right direction, which is important. So a bit about myself. I've been training dogs now for close to around 27 years. And
2 years before you were born.
Yeah, 2 years before I was born. And I actually, my first dog I trained, there was a book written by a local trainer. I think it's Amir's grandfather or something wrote that book. And since then, I was really interested. And then I went off to school in England and I was in the Royal Air Cadets. And every vacation I would spend on the RAF bases as part of our development program. And I will always ask to be assigned to the K9 section for that summer. So that is kind of where the interest sparked. And then I used to be an avid footballer, and I was going to train one morning at Harvard's club, and I was walking by King George V Park, and I saw these guys training dogs there. And it was actually Cover Felix. He had a class on a Sunday morning early there. And I went and I spoke to him, and he invited me to come down and train. So I used to walk from Marval all the way down to Jackson Square, if you all know where that is, behind Archbishop House there, every evening with my dog. And then walk back up to Marval after training. So from there, it just kind of grew on me. And back then we used to train a lot with compulsion. It was almost strictly compulsion. Well, in fact, it was strictly compulsion. And I got hold of a book written by Susan Barwig and Stuart Elliott. And I think Felix would have shared a similar story with you all, because that's where he got the bug bitten from that book as well. It's a really good book, and it actually introduced me to the idea of using motivation in training. So using a ball and using food. And from there, I just kind of became a forever student of dog training. And I've always hunted more and more and more and more information in terms of how can I do it better. So fast forward a few years, and I met some guys from the Belgian police on a flight. I used to be a flight attendant. And in chatting with them, they invited me to Belgium. And I went And so went around to a couple of clubs with them and saw their training. And then I went across to the US and spent some time with Ivan Balabanov. And he was the one that really started to really, this was back in 2000, to really take my understanding of what training is to a whole different level. Some years later, when they formed the Special Anti-Crime Unit, I was asked to assist in forming that the K9 unit attached to that, and get their training off the ground. That unit kind of changed the way police dogs operate in Trinidad. It kind of modernized things a lot. And I think since then, law enforcement has improved significantly over the years, not only here, but throughout the Caribbean as well. They've been making some strides forward. So I was happy to be a part of that. And since then, I've worked with the Barbados Police. I now operate all the K9 operations for the St. Lucia Police and Customs. And very soon I'm supposed to be heading off to Jamaica as well to do a project there as well. And currently I'm working with the prisons there, helping them with their training program. I also run a breeding kennel. So I breed Belgian Malinois, and I sort of got a liking for puppy development and training with puppies. About 5, 6, 7 years ago, I met a guy called Tobias Olenek, and Tobias was the one that taught me the system that I use now. And here we are 7 years later. I'm here to talk about one of the things that he taught me, the box training. So that's kind of things in a nutshell there. Hope I didn't go on for too long. But it has been a very good journey thus far. And I'm happy to see where things are now in comparison to where they were, as I said, maybe 10 years ago. So when you're all ready, we could start talking a bit about the actual training.
Well, yeah, thanks for that, Nicholas. The one thing you forgot to mention was that, remember, this is a Schützen club.
Right.
And you was choosing to take a dog, you know, that a puppy that you imported, but I mean,
Yeah.
It was a puppy, and you trained it successfully to Schützen one.
Yeah. And actually, Tobias Olenek was the person who guided me through that process. And that is how I learned the system. I actually learned the system with that dog.
Right.
And what is basically the NePoPo system. And what that did for me is that, of course, I had years and years and years of accumulated information in different genres of training. And there were gaps missing. Well, there were gaps in terms of my understanding of the learning process for dogs. And that NePoPo system was actually the switch that turned on my light bulb. And it really opened up my mind in a way that I never thought, you know, it could have been done. So that really changed my whole perspective on training. Later on, of course, I went on to title nurse with his BH and then his IPO 1. I should have gone on to 3 because he could have easily gone on to that, but we haven't had a trial since, I think. So yeah, so that was the IPO journey. But it's something that I was pursuing for donkey's years. I think, Allan, when you were a youngster, you came to one of the shows I had years and years ago at PSA grounds. So yeah, so it's something I've been pursuing for a number of years, and it's been a passion of mine. And for me, it has always been, my thought was that if it is that we were to take dog training forward in Trinidad, that IPO, IGP, Schützen, whatever you want to call it, was the thing to do so. Because if you can train an IGP dog, you can train any dog. That's the reality of it. You can train a dog for detection, you can train a dog for police work, personal protection, it doesn't matter. IGP, the foundation that you get by doing that would allow you to train a dog to literally do anything. Because to me, that is one of the highest forms of training. To be able to get a dog to perform at such a precise measurement and being judged and is literally half a point that sometimes separate first from fourth kind of thing. That in itself for me is a huge achievement for anybody, whether you're a trainer or just an enthusiast. You know, once you're able to accomplish that, I think you're well on your way to being one of the more knowledgeable people definitely in the dog world. Allan still there?
I think he fell off, Nick. So
okay, all right. Aaron, you gotta help me out here.
Yes, I will have to come in and help you out here a little bit. All right. So thanks a lot for that, Nick. You could, I guess you could probably start off with, like, you know, what is the theory behind the box work and you know how it can assist in the way that we use it in training.
Right. So the box, obviously we teach a dog to sit down and stand in the box, but the box is much more than that. You can literally learn to train a dog by just understanding how that box works. The science involved in box training really covers pretty much everything that you will need to in every aspect of the training that you're going to be doing. So with the box, the first thing that we establish is control, especially with young dogs and puppies. So you'd find before I send the dog into the box, I will put the dog on a sit and get the dog to focus on me before I send it into the box. And what that does is it starts teaching the dog process. So process will come in handy in every phase of the sport. Because let's say, for instance, you're going to track, you have to heel to the track, dog have to sit, you judge, you go into the judge, you go to your track, you set up your dog, and then you start the track. When you find the article, you have to pick up the article, show the judge, restart the dog on the track. So everything that you do requires a process. So that basic sit starts teaching the dog, well, before you go into the box, you need to do something. And you're not going to be allowed to go into the box unless this is done. So it starts with puppy training. It's not really training, but it's more conditioning the dog to learning and understanding how learning happens. And the box is the ideal thing to teach that. So when we start with the sit, we move into focus. So again, we start teaching the dog to focus, and then we send the dog into the box. And the first step really is that the box needs to be a happy place for the dog, because it's a classroom where the dog is going to learn. And in this concept of training, we feed the dog only in training. So we don't feed outside of training unless, well, obviously, if you don't have time and you're in a hustle, then you feed from a bowl. But generally with this training, you always feed from your hand or through training. So the dog understands that that is his only source of food. And if we turn the box into the dog's restaurant, then what happens is that the dog starts understanding that the restaurant is open for this period of time. So if your training is going to be for 5 minutes, the dog understands that, okay, I have 5 minutes to get my food. And if it is that the dog chooses to not pay attention or do his own thing or run off, then the response from us is basically, okay, no problem. You don't feel like working today? Well, then I don't feel like feeding you right now. I've offered you food, you've refused it, you found something else more interesting. So what I'm going to do is take you, put you away until the next training time. Sometimes I'll skip a training time and make a bigger point out of it. What that does is that the dog very quickly understands that, hey, I have this time to eat and I can't afford to be playing the fool. Nothing else is more important to the dog at that point because he needs the food to survive. So once you've established that fact, then again, that transfers into all of your other training with your dog, and distractions become secondary, to be honest with you. Once you establish that with the dog. So we move the dog into the box, and first we have to establish that the box is a very good place to be. And this is the place where you get food. So it's like you're going to a good restaurant. You're happy to go to that restaurant because that's where you get good food, right? Same with the dog. And so I start off very slowly in that first I will establish a sit outside of the box, the focus. Then I will guide it, lure the dog into the box. And the dog, once the dog gets into the box, I will use my marker, my clicker. I will mark it and feed. But what I will do is rapid feeding. So I will click and feed, click and feed, click and feed, click and feed. Then I will tell the dog, give the dog a verbal okay, which will indicate to the dog it's okay to come out of the box now. When I'm taking the dog out of the box, I don't send him through the front because I don't want the dog breaching the box later on. So from the start, I establish that we either go out the back or out the sides. We don't ever go out the front, all right? So once the dog understands that when I go into the box, I get food. And then when I take him out of the box, what I will normally do is try to keep the dog engaged. So instead of allowing him to drop concentration, you would see me doing a lot of spins and weaves and walking backwards with my dogs. So those are motor skill development exercises. But I also use that to keep the dog engaged in between exercises. And later on, I can also use it as a reward because the dogs love it. So I take the dog out of the box. I keep the dog engaged. Maybe I do a couple of spins, maybe a weave, and move the dog to the front of the box, put him back to sit, and then repeat the process. All right. So once we've established that the dog stays in the box, then I will start working on the dog actually staying whilst I walk away from the box. Because what I want to do is I want to teach the dog to respect the boundaries of the box. The dog is not allowed to touch the edges of the box. He's not allowed to put his paw on the front of the box or on the sides of the box. So we must establish that the dog should not touch the boundaries of the box, and the box is where he needs to stay within that box. So obviously the dog is going to touch it. He is going to try to come out. And when he does that, all I do is, of course, I don't reward. I will use my food hand and just push him back into the box a bit. Once he gets into the box, I will click. So he understands, okay, this is wrong, but this is right. So it's important in dog training, not only to tell the dog no and teach him what is wrong, but it's also important to teach him what is right. So very quickly we established that, and the dog within 2 sessions would learn, okay, the box is a good place to be. Let me keep in here. Once he established that, then I start making a few steps around the box. If he tries to come out, I put him back in. As soon as I put him back in, I reward him there. Again, he understands, okay, outside, there's no reward in it for me. When I'm inside, I get rewards. And I don't know if you all would have covered, but dogs don't work to please you. They work to better their own situation. So the dog really is interested in the food. He's not interested in anything else. He's interested in getting the food. So if he understands that when he's in the box, he gets the food, and when he's out of the box, he doesn't get food, then quickly he understands, well, in the box is the place to be. So again, once we establish that, I will start moving around, establishing the dog staying in the box. Once we get past that, then I go into the second phase of the training, which is where I create a focal point for the dog. Right? So this focus that we're going to create with the dog is going to translate into your heel work, into your stay exercises, and everything that the dog does in every phase of the sport. You're going to see the dog is going to do it with extreme focus and intensity because we're going to build this in the box. So the setup is the box is on the ground. I have, now my video is going to be a bit delayed, so you'll kind of see it after I speak, but I'm going to create a focal point with my hand. So I'm going to put food in my hand, create a focal point at the front of the box. I'm going to send the dog into the box, and every time the dog looks at the hand, I'm going to click and feed. Every time the dog looks at the hand, I'm going to click and feed. So again, the dog will start through free shaping in a way that when I look at the hand, I get food. Then I'm going to introduce something called variable reward system, where I will now, or I should say intermittent reward system. So what I'm going to do now is, initially, every time the dog looks, I will click, but sometimes now I'm going to wait a couple of seconds. So I may wait 2 seconds, I may wait 5 seconds, I'll go back to 1 second, then I'll go to 7 seconds, so that the dog doesn't know when the reward is going to come, but I'm going to introduce variable timing at this point. Again, this is something that is going to be helpful in every aspect of your training with your reward system, because you want the dog not to know exactly when the reward is going to come. You want him to always thinking, because that is what builds drive with the dog. So I now have the dog in the box, going into the box, waiting to go into the box. I can send him into the box. I get him to focus on my hand. When I can get him to focus on my hand for 10 seconds without looking away, then I know I could go into the next phase. All right. The next phase of training would be where we introduce contact points, what we call contact points. And basically what contact points is that we are creating a physical command for the dog. So we're not using any verbal, we're just using a physical touch in order to give the dog the command. All right, so we're going to teach the dog down, stand, and sit by just touching the dog. So I will touch between the shoulders for the down.
Yeah, Nick.
Right, you want to say something, Aaron? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have a question here, and this goes with what you're just saying there from Joseph. Joseph asks, so you don't click until you've gotten the duration?
No, yeah. So all you're doing in order to get duration is withholding the reward. You're withholding the click.
Yeah.
So what we teaching the dog is that when he's doing anything, unless he gets that click or next command, he's to hold the position.
Okay.
So only when he gets the click, then he's allowed to move from that position. So we start training that from day one with the puppies. So that's the only life they know. So you just need to wait a little longer to click, and in order to get duration from the dog.
So
all right.
So
but
Nick,
it needs to happen in small increments.
The clicker is both a marker and a release.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. So once I click with the dogs, it means that is exactly what I wanted. End of exercise, right?
Right.
But in the box, because what will happen is when I click and I feed, obviously the dog will lose a little concentration there, and then I set back up right after, and as soon as the dog will refocus, then I have the opportunity to do it all over again.
Okay.
But in essence, the click. But with the box, although I'm clicking, the dog needs to stay in the box. Yeah, so he can break the concentration, but he needs to stay in the box.
Okay, right.
So that's why I use the verbal command in order to move the dog out of the box from the start.
Okay, okay.
Because if I use the click for the dog to stay in the box and for the dog to come out of the box, then I create a big gray area.
Yes, yes.
So I want to keep it black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah. He only comes out of the box on the verbal, but once he's in the box and he's hearing the click, he will stay in the box.
Yeah.
Right? So that answers that question?
Yeah. Joseph, you good with that?
Sort of. So like I was trying to get some more duration on the barking, right? And I was
actually right.
I was actually marking and then giving a little more stimulation and then marking again and then rewarding. So essentially you think I should not do that?
No, because learning have rules, right?
Right.
And when you're using a marker, you have to create your rules for your marker. So if it is that you're using a click So we have a release marker, and then we have what we call a bridge marker, right? So if it is that you want the dog to maintain a position, so let's say for instance you're doing a stay. So you have the dog down and stay. And if it is that you teach the dog that the click means, well, okay, that's it, that's what I wanted, end of exercise, then obviously the click will be followed by a reward. So the dog will move from the position. So what you want to do in order to keep the dog in the position, but you want to let the dog know, well, look, you're doing a good job. You're not done as yet. You hold on there. You're on your way to a reward, but you're not there as yet. So that's where you will use something like good boy, right? But what happens a lot of the times is the biggest mistake people make is that they use good boy for the dog to hold the position, and they also use good boy for the dog to be released from the position.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to create black and white. You can't create gray areas. So if good boy means to stay in position, but so what I normally do is like, go ahead.
So good could mean continue barking then.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you. Yeah, you answered my question. Thanks.
So once, and when you click, it means that you need to reward. So the click is a promise to the dog that a reward is imminent. So even if you click at the wrong time or for the wrong thing, you must reward the dog. Because if you don't, then you're going to start breaking the trust between you and the dog. And a lot of the relationship and training comes through trust. That the dog must trust that you're guiding them in the right direction. But anytime you start to create those gray areas, then you start running into issues with consistency with the dogs. Because they start thinking now, is it this time, is he going to reward me, or should I stay here, should I go? And it starts to create confusion, and that normally manifests itself in the dog displaying different behaviors that not necessarily that you will be wanting, right? So the more black and white you become, is the more clearer the dog will become, and the dog will be able to perform at a much higher level.
Right.
Yeah, that you understand that, Joseph?
You hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay, just went.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Say that again, Joseph.
Yeah, say it again, Joseph.
No, I was saying, I said that I understood. I understood. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so back to the box now. So when we're ready to now go into the second phase of training, where we're going to actually start asking the dog for positions. Again, we need to establish exactly what we're trying to accomplish and where the dog is at. So when we start off, what I will normally do is when I give the command, and I kind of trying to get my video sorted out here, but for some reason it's delayed because I can actually show you what I'm doing while I speak.
Yeah.
What I will do is I will take it in baby steps. So everything I'm training, what I normally do is I would have an objective. So if I'm training a dog for detection work, or if I'm training a dog for sport work, it doesn't matter. I create an objective, and then I would break down that objective into small training steps. Because if you want a dog to do a send away, you don't just go out to the field and just send it out, right? So you have to create a target, and you send the dog short to the target, and then you have to teach the dog to down. So all those things are separate things that you have to train before you combine them together, right? So what I would normally do is create what I will call micro steps for every objective that I have. So you literally can train a dog to do anything you want once the dog is physically capable of doing it. But all you have to do is to understand that there's a road to get there, and you don't start at the destination. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you know what your destination is, but then you have to create the steps to get there. So with the pressure points, I'm starting to teach the dog that he has the ability to switch pressure off. And this will escalate and go all the way along to where the e-collar, where the dog will understand that he can switch the e-collar off. And this is actually the start of e-collar training for the dogs. All happening in the box. All right, so again, I want you all to think of the box not as just a sit down and stand, but it is creating a language for the dog to understand. And it creates a communication channel between you and the dog. So it creates a clear communication channel. So the dogs are able to understand things a lot better with this channel than not. Yeah. So once I apply the pressure point, obviously it's new to the dog. The dog will not know what it means. So I will lure the dog into the down with my focus hand whilst applying the pressure point. But the key to it is that you must maintain the pressure point until the dog is in the position. Once the dog is in the position, you release the pressure point and you click, and then you can reward. So very quickly, I will try and post a video on the page with the pressure points and that sort of thing, so that you can see it live. The importance of keeping that finger on until the dogs get into the position.
Excuse Nicholas, just to interject a little bit. You can arrange for Kurt or Aaron to share the screen and you can play it off of your device, right? And we can share your.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm using a computer with no videos on it right now.
No problem. No problem.
So I can share it at a when we're done.
No problem.
From my phone or something.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. So once we leave the pressure point on, once the dog gets into the position and we remove the pressure point, then the dog understands that he has the power to switch this pressure on. So I want you to think of it as when you go into your car and you start your engine, you start hearing this ding, 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 ding for the seatbelt to go on, right? So that dinging will make you put your seatbelt on without even affecting you physically. It's just a mental thing. The same with the pressure point. It's not like disturbing the dog physically. It's not hurting the dog in any way, but it's just slightly annoying and the dog wants to switch it off. So what ends up happening is that the dog will want to get into the position faster and faster over time to switch the pressure off. Yeah, you follow that?
Yeah.
So speed in this system of training, so you'll see many videos now online with Nino and all those other guys where they have puppies doing things really quickly. And speed is the name of the game, you know, it's swift.
Yeah.
But in this training system, speed is inevitable. And because we are training slowly first, we are able to get a level of precision that you would not be able to get if it is that you go and try and teach speed early. You understand? Because the dog wants to switch off that pressure, he's going to naturally get fast. You can't stop the dog from getting faster. It is inevitable. He will get faster. All right. So I will do that with the down, the sit. I will touch just above the tail. When the dog gets into the sitting position, again, I will remove the contact point. I will click and then I will feed. For the stand, I will touch by the dog's flank. Once the dog gets into the position, I'll remove the contact point, click, and then feed. So very quickly, the dog understands these contact points because if you're familiar with classical conditioning is where the dog pairs basically two things. So it pairs one event with another. So what it is doing, it is pairing the contact point with going into the position. So once I apply the contact point, and then lure the dog into the down position, very soon the dog will understand that the contact point means to go down. But in order for classical conditioning to work, you must give the new command, which will be the contact point, before the old command, which will be the luring position. So when you get your puppies, you will lure it into a down, a sit, whatever, when you're doing like your little food training, when you now get your puppy, right? So the actual movement of the hands is actually a command for the dog, because dogs communicate through body language. So it's important when you're training that you try and not give off body language when you're teaching positions, because the slightest move, the dog will pick up on, because they communicate first by body language and then second through hearing. Yeah, so everything that they do with each other is through body language, and then the verbal is like a secondary command for them. So you'll find a lot of dogs when you're training, you would see a lot of dogs in training doing really well, and then when they go out to a trial, they fail miserably and look like they would never train. And everybody is always baffled why that happens. Well, basically what happens a lot of times is because when you're training, you're using small body movements, and the dog isn't really learning the verbal command. He's only learning on those body movements. So I've seen many dogs that if you stand still and tell them to heel, they will not move. But if it is that you just make a slight movement without telling them to heel, then they will move into the position very quickly. So when you go to a trial and a judge is looking at you and you have to stand still, then it changes the picture for the dog. So he's not really getting a command. You understand? Because the body movement is not there, he's not getting a command. So classical conditioning could work for you, and it could work against you. But you have to understand that it really sits on your shoulder 24 hours a day. It really does. With dog training, everything that you do, you can attribute to classical conditioning, the good and the bad. So classical conditioning will work for us in this instance in that the dog will be able to tell us when he understands the command. So the dog, I will know that the dog understands the finger contact if it is that he goes into the down position before I can lure him. So that's why it's important to separate the two. Don't lure and apply finger contact at the same time. One must come before the other, because that's the only way the dog will get the opportunity to show you that he understands. So the finger contact must come first, and then that is followed by the luring hand. Yeah? So eventually, the focus hand will stay level at about the dog's eye level, and you would be able to give the sit down and stand command by just, and the dog will stay focused on that hand in front. So you wouldn't have to move that hand, it stays stable, and the dog will just focus on that hand, and you would be able to do sit down and stand for contact points. Right? So once we've established contact points, where did, go ahead.
Yeah, Nick. As you mentioned all of those things, right? Could did a nice session with the guys on the chat in the club about reinforcement, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and correction, right? So I don't know if you could tie in language in what you're describing with positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. So the application of the contact point, right? What happens is there it is actually negative reinforcement. So the acronym NePoPo means that because we're going to be removing that unpleasant feeling, that becomes negative reinforcement. So that's where the ne comes from. And the first po, right, is when you reward the dog.
Right.
Yeah, so what you do is you're basically removing that unpleasant feeling, which is the negative. So negative reinforcement, and then it is followed by the positives, right? So it is why it's called a double reinforcement system. Yeah?
Yeah.
So the positive reward would be the distribution of the food.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that will be what you will determine the positive reward.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the good thing about this system, though, is that you teach the dog. What a lot of people do is they teach only positive, and then later on they implement a negative.
Yeah.
But with this system, from the start, we teach the dog the negative first, and that it has the ability to get rewarded through the negative, if you understand what I mean. So the negative starts becoming a very powerful thing for the dog.
Yeah, I think
So
Stephan.
the other thing in this system is after you.
Yeah, I think Stephan have a question.
Yeah, my understanding of it, Nicholas, is that you create the negative pressure, and the first positive, because it's two positive, the first positive is switching off that negative pressure, and the second one is the actual distribution of food that comes second. So the first is
Right. No. So
then switching off is the first
right.
positive.
No. But
okay.
No, the actual the negative is actually a negative reward. It's not actually a negative punishment.
No, I was saying the first positive,
So
switching off of the negative, and the second positive, because NePoPo, so it's two positives. So the first positive will be switching off
but what
the pressure, and then the second one will be the distribution of the food.
No, well, you can't. Switching off the pressure is not a positive.
Yeah.
Switching off the pressure is taking away
It's taken away.
feeling.
So it's
so
a
it
negative.
falls under negative reward.
Yeah.
It falls under negative reward.
Yeah, correct.
A positive reward, what you'll consider positive, is where you distribute food to the dog. So you reward the dog. That will be considered a positive reward. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, I follow what you're saying.
So the importance of classical conditioning in this is we take this all through. This box work will go into your obedience, your tracking, and your protection work. That's how powerful it is. And what it also does, it teaches the handler timing. It teaches them about the intermittent reward and variable reward systems. It also teaches the whole concept of operant conditioning and classical conditioning. So it is really a classroom. A lot of learning happens both for the dog and the handler in the box. The most important thing you learn is that the dog tells you when he's ready to move to the next step, which is a big gray area for a lot of people. When do I progress my dog from one level to the next?
Yeah.
And the box will show you that the dog gives you a clear indication that he understands this level and he's ready to move to the next level. Right? So once we have established the contact points, right? Then what I will do, and it's very important that you don't do sit down, stand, sit down, stand, sit down, stand. The order needs to vary. So I always teach the down from the stand first of all, because I want the dog's front legs to be planted and the hindquarters to move back for the down. I don't want the dog creeping forward, because when you start doing your exercises out of motion, you don't want the dog making steps forward into the down, but rather you want him to plant his front feet and drop into the down position.
All right.
So you will get maybe a half a point there for outlook, if you know what I mean. But of course, in high-level competition, every little ounce counts, right? So once the dog plants his front feet, the back will rock back into the down. Yeah?
Yeah.
So I always teach it down from the stand because of that. And it is also because when the dog is sitting, it's difficult for him to move his rear to the back initially. Later on, yes, he can do it, no problem. But when you first start, it's very difficult for them to do it. So I do it from the stand first. And what I do is I vary the command. So I will go maybe stand, down, sit, down, well, stand, and then go back down and vary it like that, rather than do stand, down, sit, stand, down, sit, stand, down, sit. Because then very quickly, again, through classical conditioning, the dog will start anticipating.
Yeah.
Right? And anticipation is a clear sign of learning, but you don't want to create a situation where the dog will anticipate, because then the dog will start breaking the positions very quickly. Right? And also what will happen is that the dog starts to get unstable, because just like with the being able to give the dog the sit down stand in varying orders, we also want to vary the reward schedule. Because if it is that every time the dog gets in a position and we click, as soon as the dog gets in the position, then what happens later on is that if the dog doesn't get the click within that time frame, he's going to offer you another position.
Right.
So it wouldn't be uncommon that you do a sit, and if the dog doesn't get the reward right away, he's going to offer you a down or a stand, because he thinks that, well, okay, when I don't get the reward, I get asked to go into the next position. You understand? So what we want the dog to do is, once he gets the command, he holds the position until that click happens. If he tries to move from the position before the click happens, we just put him back into the position.
Okay.
And then we will click and reward. So he will understand that I don't move from that position unless I get another command or I get the click. Yeah?
Yeah.
So once we have established that with the finger contact, then we go to the leash commands. Again, we're going to start teaching the dog the leash pressure. So we're going to use classical conditioning again. So the old command would be the finger contacts. This is something the dog already knows. And the new command is where we're going to use the leash. So I'm going to tug up with the leash for a sit, tug down for a down, and tug forward for a stand. I'm going to use classical conditioning to teach the dog what it means. Because of course, when I first introduce it to the dog, he doesn't know what it means. So when I tug up, I'm going to follow it with the contact point for sit. If I tug down, I'll follow it with the contact point for down. I tug forward, I'll follow it with the contact point for stand. And again, very quickly, the dog will start, just like anticipation in a way, that the dog is going to know, well, okay, tug down means to go down, tug up. So the dog will let you know when he understands that, right? Because once you apply the tug and he goes into the position, before you could apply the contact point, then you know the dog understands the command.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So, yeah. From the leash commands, then we're going to start to introduce the verbal commands. And a lot of people would say, well, you know, we can teach a dog to sit down and stand without going through all these steps. Sure, you can, but you will still have to come back and teach your dog how to switch off pressure, and you still have to try and work out when the dog can move on to the next step and all these different things. So what we do is deal with all these things up front and create that language. So when we're training later on, anything we train in, the dog picks up like 10 times as fast. It's very, very simple. It becomes very easy for the dog to learn, right? So we go to the verbal command now. Again, I'm going to use classical conditioning. The old command will be the leash.
Nicholas?
And the new command will, yeah.
That last point you made there, would you say that is one of the biggest advantages of using the box?
Definitely. And as I said, the box is an education both for the dog and the handler. When you complete box training properly, your understanding of training it grows exponentially. You know.
Why you say that?
So, well, because you're learning all these different things, all the operant conditioning, classical conditioning, you're learning how to apply to the training, and training is about science. I mean, it's gone past where it's just a physical thing. It's not just about doing, but it's understanding why you're doing. If you can understand why you do something, then you can understand why it will go wrong or why it will go right. You know what I mean? So what I will do is when I look at a dog and I look at a problem, I look as to, well, what were the steps to get this dog to this position? And where is it that the mix-up is happening? Is it that the dog is anticipating? Is it that the dog is missing a step in the training? You know, if it is that the dog is associating it with something else, those are the things that cause training to go wrong. It's never because the dog doesn't want to do it. It's never because of that. It's always because the training steps lack something.
Good point.
Or the communication isn't clear enough between the man and the dog, the trainer and the dog.
So you're saying that we shouldn't wonder when we think about a dog not doing something as in our mind we thought it should have been done. We need to search our steps. We need to probably go back and see where we went wrong.
Yeah. And again, with the box training, so with the box training, you know that you're ready to go to the next step if it is that you're able to do the sequence of exercises without an error over 3 training sessions. So you go through 3 training sessions with the dog doing that step of the training without making a mistake, then you know that you need to go, you're ready to go to the next level.
Yeah.
So
as I say, a
you
dog
also have a backup.
Always wants to better their position, their situation. So, you know, you must be doing something wrong if the dog is not thinking and functioning.
Yeah. And the dog will not do something only because he doesn't understand it. Once he understands it, he will do it pretty much 100% of the times, barring a physical issue or a mental issue.
Okay.
But generally, the dog will not choose not to do something because he wants the reward. Why would he choose not to do it?
Correct.
Nick, I have a question from Krys. Krys, you want to ask the question? I see you have it here. Okay, he's probably busy. He typed it, so I'll ask it for him. Oh, you there, Krys?
Yeah, I hear.
Go ahead, ask the question.
I was just wondering, so if you were saying you're going through these steps to figure out what exactly was the mistake that you made. Maybe you skipped over a step, or it was just immaturity in training, or just inexperience, and you have a problem with the dog, right? Now, how it is you would approach, is it that you start over from the beginning to fix a problem like that, or
Well, it depends on what the problem is.
Right.
It depends on what the problem is, and it depends on how severely the problem has impacted the dog.
So let's say, for instance, the dog reads body language because
all right. So that's an easy one to fix.
To do a command. Yeah.
So that's an easy one to fix. So what you just use classical conditioning. So what you do is you give the command first, and then you follow with the body language. You give the command first and then follow with the body language. So eventually what will happen is the dog will go on the command before you're able to give the body language. But if you do the body language and the command together, then the body language will override the command. And that's where the problem with body language comes in training.
Okay, so it makes sense. It's just like how when you're trying to move from that focus on your hand, the pressure point, and just the same way you're phasing out that you're using it in that same way then. I guess to move
classical conditioning.
So you give the command on that.
Yeah. So that's actually a perfect example of how training is about science and the application of the science of learning as opposed to just a physical thing. Just understanding that classical condition, how it works, would be able to solve, I would say, close to 80% of the training problems that people get.
Nicholas, just in terms of that point that you were making there, right? I remember from Tobias' seminar, he was saying that there's a particular window, and if you do an action during that window, and another action, same time.
The dog will always go to the shortcut first. Yeah.
But if
right,
it is to do it outside, I think it was 5 seconds or something like that. So to not associate two things, you have to wait until after the 5 seconds.
So basically the rule I use is that if it is I don't want the dog to associate something, I'll wait 10 seconds before I do something else so that he doesn't associate the two. But generally, dogs, there's a 3-second window for the dog to make a clear association between one thing and the next. So for example, you come home in the afternoon and the dog bit up or dug up the garden earlier. And you come now and you take the dog and you carry it by where the dog bite up or dig up and you try to scold the dog there. The dog have absolutely no clue what he's being scolded for because he's not able to associate what happened before with what was happened then. So to eradicate a behavior, you must catch the behavior actually happening. And then you use a marker, no, when the behavior is happening, and then that could be followed by a consequence. Then the dog could associate it because now what we would have done is teach the dog no, followed by a consequence. Classical conditioning will happen. The dog will associate no with, well, shit happening. You understand? Just like the dog will associate the click with a reward, the dog will associate no with a correction. Yeah, or some sort of punishment, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's classical conditioning, but it is important, and I keep stressing this, it is important to give one before the other. If you give them simultaneously, one will cancel out the other. The dog will not connect it. So you have to do it one before the other in order for the dog to show you he understands.
Yeah.
Okay? So that answers that, right? Stephan?
Stephan, that's good?
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't asking a question. I was just, thinking that piece of information would have been essential to answering Christian.
Okay.
It is essential, yes.
Josh has a question. Nick? Yeah. Josh, go ahead.
Sure.
Hey, Nick. Yeah. I understand what you're saying so far. But I have I was talking to somebody about that same 3-second rule, that kind of thing, the dog bite up something.
Yeah.
And, if you go, don't catch the dog in the act, don't correct the dog in terms of beating the dog or scolding the dog, right? So they asked me, all right, so what you will do, like if a dog don't like to go for car drives, right? Because they take the dog for one long drive, the first drive, one long drive, and end up in the vet. The dog had a bad experience, and from since that, the dog don't want to go in the car. No, that wasn't 3 seconds. So this was the argument. Well, the discussion we had. They was proposing, well, that 3 seconds there really because
it wasn't 3 seconds to what? 3 seconds to what? If
it wasn't 3 seconds
happened in the car.
Well, that is it. I don't know, right? I just trying to figure out as well. They say that
if the bad experience happened in the car, then it's reasonable to think that the dog will associate being in the car with the bad experience because it happened live in the vehicle. If it is that they took the dog somewhere and then the dog had a negative experience somewhere later on in that day, then it's not reasonable to think that the dog doesn't like the car because of that experience. The science would not support that, if you understand what I mean. The dog will not like the car for some other reason. Yeah? So like with the car again, with the car, again, you use classical conditioning. If you know the dog has an issue with the car, then you need to turn the car into something positive for the dog. Because the dog, will want to do something to better his own situation. So maybe feed the dog in the car. Just send the dog in the car. But what happens with a lot of people, even when they're doing crate training, is that when they send the dog into the crate, they close the door. So it's the equivalent of me taking you around a prison on a tour, and I tell you, well, check inside our cell now, just take a walk around, and when you go inside, I close the door and walk away.
Right.
You understand that kind of trapped feeling that you're gonna get? So the
Totally
dog gets
understand
that
what
same
you're saying.
feeling. So like when you're training a crate for crate, what I normally do is put the food in, but leave the crate door open. So the dog can go in and come out, and go in and come out. So he doesn't feel like, well, you're sending him there to trap him.
Right.
So the dog will not want to go in the crate because he thinks that, well, every time you put me in there, you close the door and he's gone. You know what I mean? So we have to reverse that by creating a positive experience. So with the car, classical conditioning. You take the dog close to the car, you feed the dog close to the car. Then maybe you go to the next step. You may say, well, okay, I'm going to lift you up, put you in the car, and then allow you to come out and we play. So the whole action of going in and coming out led to play. So the dog will start associating, well, okay, this could be a little game.
Okay. Understood. Thanks.
Okay, Josh, thanks. Yeah. Okay, Nick, you can go ahead with the box work. Hopefully we lose link there.
Everybody hear me? Or?
You now come back. We weren't hearing you before. Yeah.
I was talking to myself that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you associate things with a positive outcome for the dog, he's more than likely want to do it going forward, because that's what the science support. So when you're assessing a problem, you can't create new science to support your problem. You have to assess it objectively, right? So in that instance, if the dog went, depending on the time frame in which the dog would have experienced a negative thing, then you have to know that may not be the reason why the dog doesn't like the car. But if it happened in the car, then it's reasonable to think it is because of the car, whatever happened in the car, right? So we can move along with the box training now, or any more questions?
Yeah.
Right, so we on to the verbal commands. So again, classical conditioning, we will give the verbal command first, followed by the old command, which will be the leash command. So I will say down, and then follow with a slight tug down, and the dog will go down. When I repeat it enough times, eventually the dog will go down on the verbal alone before I am able to use the leash. And that normally happens very quickly because the dog starts understanding the language and he starts using classical conditioning on a more applicable level. Yeah. So once we establish the verbal commands, this is all happening with you at the side of the box. Once we establish the verbal commands there, then what we start doing now is applying what we call continuous pressure, right? So I'm going to go to the front of the box. The focus is going to change from my hand now onto my eyes. So I will stand at the front of the box. Every time the dog looks up at my eyes, I would click on a reward, just like I did with the hand, until I can get 10 seconds of focus in my eyes. Yeah? Once I'm getting that 10 seconds focus, I've actually started using verbal for eye contact now, a verbal release. So I'll say yes or okay, because it continues to create that stem of focus with the release coming from my mouth.
Okay.
Yeah, so the dogs tend to focus a lot better.
Nicholas, can you repeat that?
Once I'm getting the 10 seconds. Yeah, so I go to the front of the box and I'm now moving the focus from my hand to my face, to my eyes. So I want the dog to look into my eyes when I'm giving the commands, right? Instead of looking at my hand. So just like I did with the hand, I will ask the dog to focus on my eyes. Once he focuses on my eyes, I will click and I will reward. And same thing, I will progress that where I'll do intermittent reward up until he can focus for 10 seconds continuously without looking off before I click. Once I get that 10 seconds of focus, I know I can start giving commands. So what I'm going to do is apply leash pressure in one direction.
Okay, Nick. I don't know if you're hearing me, but you went off there a little bit.
When it, okay, so I'll apply leash pressure in one direction.
Yeah.
Either to the left or to the right. I will keep the leash pressure on, and I will give the command.
Okay, go on again, Nick.
Have I gone again?
All right, now I hear you. Yeah, hearing you now. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right, so I don't know what you heard and what you didn't hear.
You're talking about leash pressure on the to the left and right. That's up to where we heard. Yeah.
Okay, so left or right, either
Left
side.
or right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will keep the leash pressure on. So, and then when I give the command, when the dog gets into the position, I will switch off the leash pressure. So this is how I get the dogs to go into the down and sit and stand very quickly, very sharp. Yeah. So leash pressure on, down, and then when the dog is in the down position, then I will reward.
Right.
The other thing I start introducing is where I will give several commands before giving the reward. So I will say down, I will wait maybe 10 seconds. Then I will say sit, I will wait 10 seconds. Then I'll say stand, I'll wait, and then I'll reward. So that the dog learns to hold the position until I either give him another command or he gets the click to move. And this is a very important part of the training, because if it is that you don't do that, then the dog will expect that after every command, he will get a reward.
Right. Yeah.
So we now start to introduce the whole concept of intermittent reward, where you don't get rewarded for everything, right? And this is a concept that I've put into detection work as well, because when I'm in training, if I reward the dog every time, and then when I go on an operation, I don't have the opportunity to reward the dog maybe 90% of the times, because when you make a fine, you're not sure what is the content of the fine. So if you reward the dog, and let's say the dog falls in the gate, then you'll be molding the wrong behavior. So we have to confirm what the substance is first before they can issue a reward. And if you're going on, maybe if you're working in a private environment, you'll get the opportunity to go back and reward. But if you're working in a live operational environment, that doesn't always happen because of the arrest procedures and all that have to follow. So in training, I introduced that whole concept of the dog can make multiple fines with no reward, just like I would do with obedience or protection work. You'll do multiple things without reward. So this is what I'm saying, that this box training can be transferred to everything that you do in dog training. So I do it with all dogs that I train, I do it.
So what the box work do is it creates a discipline or a foundation for moving on with almost all aspects of training.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that box training now, what will happen is where now I can, well, we should do another session where we can talk about the learning pyramid. So in the learning pyramid, we split a pyramid into 3 sections: primary school, secondary school, and university. And the biggest problem we have is where people want to move their dog from primary school all the way to university without that secondary school education, right?
Classic problem.
So that's the biggest thing that, once the dog does it twice, you're ready for a trial, you know, in that kind of way.
Yeah.
So in the secondary education, we have 4 options. We can, when I say help, I mean where we apply leash pressure, right? So that's what I consider help. So we can help the dog with reward, We can help the dog without reward. We can give no help with reward, and then we can do no help and no reward. So we have those 4 options that we fluctuate our training in between. So we're preparing the dog to do things without reward. And this is how we start the weeding off process of the rewards. And basically what you want to do is you want to keep your dog in that phase of training for its entire life. When it's time for him to go to trial, about a month off of trial, then we move to university training, which is no help and no reward. So I will do an entire routine without a reward, and at the end of the routine, I will give a reward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it is that I was to train like that all the time, then very quickly, all those beautiful behaviors that I would have crafted over the years would just fall by the wayside, because then the dog will start thinking, well, they don't really have anything in this for me. Because you have no hope anymore of getting a reward if it is that you just train like that. So that's another classic mistake people make. And that they think, well, okay, the dog is good, he's doing it, so you don't need a reward again.
Yeah.
So he always will. He always will. It's just how you give the reward and when you give the reward is what will make the difference in terms of getting the performance.
Right.
So once we've completed the box work and the dog is solid over 3 sessions, 100% of the time with the leash pressure, then I take the dog outside of the box and I start to incorporate it into the heel work. So I will heel with the dog, I will apply leash pressure in one direction, and I will give the command. When the dog goes into the position, I will release the leash pressure and then follow that with a click and a reward. And that's how you'll get the sit in motion, down in motion, stand in motion. And that exercise will be 100% solid. You won't have any issue at all with that exercise going forward. You know, and the dog will get to the point where you can do sit down and stand from any angle, any way, anyhow, and it wouldn't matter. The dog will do it 100% of the times, regardless of the distraction. So it is what we call, eventually what we'll be able to do is once we get to university level is where we introduce corrections, right? Because all through the training process, we will not be using corrections. We'll be using a help and reward system.
All right.
The corrections come in after we've taught the dog the behavior and the dog understands the whole concept. Then it is fair for us to deliver a consequence for not doing. But then we know for sure that the dog understands what we expect. But if we deliver corrections before, then we kind of being unfair because we haven't showed you what we expect. It's like you're going for a job, you start working, and they firing you because you're not doing the job that they never told you how to do it. So they never did any training with you, but you're just supposed to know. You know? Or they did train you to a point, but left out some major parts. And because they didn't do that, then you get fired. So it's equivalent with the dog. So we want to make sure they understand 100%, and then we can introduce a correction. And a correction is just a higher dose of help. Dogs trained in the system don't need like heavy corrections. It's very, very light corrections. I could remove the lead and switch to e-collar and replace the leash pressure. You're there or freeze up again?
No, we're hearing you.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
So I can replace the leash now with an e-collar. So I put the e-collar on low stem and replace the leash pressure with e-pressure, electronic pressure. So I'll apply stem. I'll give the dog the command. When the dog gets into the position, then I will take off the stem. So the dog learned to switch off the stem. It needs to get into the position based on the command that we give.
All right.
So you understand that language that we created?
Yeah,
And then we can move that same language to the protection work, same language to the tracking work. It's the same process. When we teach article indications and the dog look off of the article, I can apply leash pressure. When the dog looks back at the article, I release the leash pressure. So the dog understands that when you look away is not what we want. What we want you to do is to continue focusing on the article. So that is one example of how you can do it. You know what I mean? Detection work, I do the same thing. A dog look away from a hide, I apply leash pressure or e-pressure. The dog looks back at the hide, and then the reward follows. So the dog understands the process and doesn't want to skip these steps. He understands that he has to go through this process in order to get to the reward.
Okay.
So that's basically the box in a nutshell.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Nick, for that. I'll leave. Yeah, Allan, go ahead.
All right. So Nicholas, I feel like now I would have seen a lot of this training from yourself and so on, and I started the training with my dog. I did a class with you already. But I feel like we while all the information was put out, we only halfway there. So I think we definitely need to do another session at least, more with the dog and his video.
For sure. It's a lot of information. So the best way to go about it is step by step.
It's a lot.
We do the first step.
You know, it's a lot of.
We do the first step. I will show a video with the first step. And then we do the second step. I'll show a video with the second step, and so on.
Yeah. We also have like in particular Sandrina and myself, we use any box to do all our obedience. So you know, and a couple others want to incorporate it as well. So you know, it's something that we want you know, probably link with you as well.
Also, I want to add that because the dog is going to hold the position until he's given a next command or he's given the reward marker, it means that your stays are taken care of there already. You don't need to teach stay separate. The dog already knows how to stay. Yeah. So once you give a command, he's going to hold it until he gets the release or gets another command. So the dog will stay in any position. So down, sit, stand, he will stay once he gets that command.
Krys has a question. Krys, go ahead.
Would you just for general information, would you advise somebody to start this with of course it'll be better with puppies, but would you advise somebody to start using the box at any age, or is there a particular age, or
no, there's no particular age. There's no particular
age. The dog
age.
has been trained a different way for some time and you want to try the box out, would it be advised to use a different dog or to just try it out with the, is there a benefit to just start with the box in between training?
No, well, obviously there's a benefit when you start that way because then you mold the dog in a certain direction. But the reality is that you teach dog new exercises all the time. So this is just like a different exercise that you're teaching the dog. So you will go out and you might teach the dog to do a send away later on, or you might teach him to do a blind search later on. So it's just like another exercise that you added on to your repertoire. But this exercise is something that you can use to assist you going forward. Now, you'll have a situation where a dog may end up with bad habits. So you have multiple habits with your heel work, with your bite work, with your because you wasn't really following a clear pathway for your training. It's just kind of you do things and you do a bit here, a little bit there, and try and mix and match. You may be on YouTube watching 5-6 different training systems and trying to mix and match. Now, let me tell you. Yeah, but let me tell you, I went through that for years. I went through that being around different trainers and trying different, and that's how I learned a lot. But to be honest with you, it only came together for me when I did this NePoPo system. Then everything I learned in the 15 years prior to that was 15 or 20 years prior to that came, it was like a eureka moment for me. You know, I instantly became a really much better trainer just by understanding this, and all the other systems of training I learned made a whole lot more sense.
Okay.
So if it is that you have a dog that has multiple issues, you just have to start applying the science in order to try and sort out the issues. Depending on how far, you may have to actually change the command and change the picture for the dog and retrain the exercise based on that. So I'm actually helping someone with a dog now, and he started with the box work, and he was given like multiple commands, sit down, stand, because the dog started to do it well, right? So eventually the dog, every time you tell the dog to stand, the dog will go into a sit automatically. So once the reward will come within 2 seconds, the dog goes into a sit. And not for hell could he get the dog to remain in the stand. So in a situation like that, we had to step back the training, start over the box from scratch, and rebuild it. It rebuilt fast because the dog already had a fair idea, but we had to go back to the finger pressure in order to stabilize the stand before we could have progressed it on. And he had already reached where he was verbal commands, applying leash pressure and all that. But I only saw the problem then at that point. That's when he came to me for help.
Right.
And that was the first thing. So we just had to break it back down to scratch. So now the dog is standing and remaining in the stand because we did that.
Yeah.
So sometimes, training, you have to get to your BH from scratch, you have to put aside 2 years for training. That's the honest truth. 15 months and all is not.
Nicholas, it's good that you say that because we have a very enthusiastic group here.
Yeah.
They expose a lot of online training and so on. But I always remind them that, well, for the people who have the older puppies, they 8 months or something like that, and I let them know that, you have another year plus of training to really get, because this foundation that you're going to put down here is your foundation that you're going to use to go towards IPO 1, and 3. Correct. So you better get this part done. Actually, good. You're spending most time here doing a quality, when you reach IPO 1 level, it's because, you have done almost everything towards 2 and 3 already.
But in reality, you would see most of the top dogs in Europe don't start competing until they're about 4 years old.
Yeah.
And they will do IPO 1, 2, and 3 within a very short space of time.
Space of time, correct. Yeah.
By the time they do their BH, the dog is already ready for IPO 3.
Yes, correct.
Or sometimes they would do a BH, and then 2-3 years after, then they will return to the training field, to the
correct. Yeah.
Competition.
Yeah.
So they will get
I spend a lot of time trying to get people to understand is that, especially when you're working with puppies, that you just need to be patient, because remember, you're introducing a lot of new things and you're working with a puppy that is very inquisitive. The puppy will want to explore, it will want to do different things. So the main thing is that you don't want to force the puppy to do anything. You want the puppy to make that decision. You want the puppy to make the decision to focus on you, because you will be able to reward the puppy. So the puppy needs to understand that. So what you find out happen is that, you're doing a session and people want to grab the leash and pull the puppy to them, or they will want to make one sort of funny noises, according to Tobias, chaka chaka, you want to do all kinds of things to get the puppy's attention. But that is not building true attention.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you entice. So without all of that, remember, it's classical conditioning. So without that, the puppy will not associate, attention. But what you want the puppy to do is associate attention with driving you to give a reward.
Yeah.
You understand the difference?
Yeah, of course.
So it's important to have that patience and to understand that some dogs learn faster than some dogs learn certain exercises faster than others. So I've had many instances where a dog started off real slow, and then later on he just speed up and pass all the other dogs that was creeping. You know what I mean? And vice versa. You get the same the other way as well. So you have to be patient, and you have to observe, understand, and respect the laws of learning. Once you do that, everything flows smoothly. You enjoy your training, and the dog enjoys it. Now, this type of training can take a mediocre dog, a alright dog, and make it look like a world champion. And that's the downfall of this type of training. If you're into breeding, and you're going based on a dog's performance, you could be fooled.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. If you're not an experienced breeder or experienced with the dog itself, you could be fooled, because, I mean, you really could bring out something out of a mediocre dog that people have difficulty bringing out of a real top dog using the system of training. And that's been an argument in Europe that is not good for breeding. But at the end of the day, science have taken us here, and we now have a better understanding of how the dogs learn. and we have a much more humane way of teaching the dogs and to get higher output from them.
Right.
So, you know, I don't see that changing. I don't see that going in any other direction.
Right.
You know?
Nick, Kim has I think a point of clarification, what you brought up on the box with that she wants to ask. Kim, go ahead.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah. So, so Nick, you mentioned a few times the use of the leash pressure to the left and the right. Now, I understood when you replaced the pressure points. I don't know what you call them. You know, the three pressure points. I understood when you identified those and you moved that to leash pressure. But then a little bit after, you mentioned a few times about using leash pressure to the left and right, and I didn't understand that.
Right. Okay. So that is where we have taught the dog the verbal commands. So the dog understands the verbal commands.
Yep.
We're now going to the front of the box and standing in front of the box.
Yep.
And we're applying leash pressure in one direction. So either to the left of the dog or to the right of the dog. So not and. It's either you choose one side that you're more comfortable with. Right? So if you go to the left, so you just pull on the leash to the left and keep that pressure on, and you give the command.
Oh, so it's not, you're not indicating anything by that?
No. No, all we're doing is we're creating leash pressure, and we're teaching the dog in order to get the negative reward, which would be us switching off the leash pressure. He needs to go into the position. And the quicker he gets into that position, is the quicker that leash pressure will be switched off.
See, I thought that you replaced the pressure point with a particular leash pressure direction. You said up, down.
We did. Yeah, we did.
Right.
Correct.
So if there's the up and the down, where's the side come into it?
No, the side is later on in the training. This is the final step.
Okay.
In training in the box. So after you do that leash pressure up, down, and forward.
I see.
You go to the verbal. So you go
so there's
sit
no
down,
significance,
stand, follow.
And there's no significance of left and right. It's just that there is like the seatbelt hum that's there until you do what I have told you to do orally.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Will you, Aaron, would you, and Nicholas, would you allow me one more question?
Sure, go right ahead.
Oh, of course.
I heard when you said in the very beginning that you do not allow the dog to come forward out of the box. The dog must come out of the box either backwards or to the side.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Making sure that that's what you meant, so the dog never comes out forward?
Yeah, because remember the whole object of this is that we want the dog to stay in the box. And if we teach the dog that to release and it's okay to go through the front of the box, the dog may start thinking that it's okay to step out of the box through the forward, because that would be the natural movement for the dog to go forward. So if it is that we never allow the dog to go forward, then that doesn't become an option for the dog. So it's the same when Tobias would have spoken about the two-door concept, that you don't leave the second door open at all. So we shut that door. The dog never gets the opportunity to go through the front of the box. We shut that door on the dog, so he doesn't know that exists. That is not an option that ever exists for him.
I see.
The only option is to go off to the side or to the back.
And when he goes to the back or the side, it is with a release command. It is not with...
Correct. So I give a verbal.
Yes, a verbal release. Meaning
I give a verbal release.
Done.
Yeah.
Right, we are done here.
Correct.
So you don't pull him out of the box to go and do something else.
What I normally do is I make it very obvious to the dog. So I will give him a tap on the side and say okay or yes, so that the dog is clear that it's okay to come out of the box now. And when he comes out of the box, I keep him engaged by doing these spins and weaves and stuff. and then I can repeat the process again. So what I create is
Gotcha.
a balance. Concentration in the box
Release.
paired with a release. And when I release the dog, I release the dog. The dog is relaxed and enjoys it. So that way, the dog maintains focus because
Yes.
you give him that little
Short.
mental break. Yeah.
Yes.
But what I also do is all the exercises I train going forward, I will normally pair them. So in any training session, I will do a focus exercise paired with a free up exercise, basically. So I might do concentration with the healing together with a send away, you know, or concentration with healing with jumping or something like that, you know.
Yes.
But I will also use classical conditioning to give the dog triggers. So for instance, if I want the dog, the send away is one of the mysteries really for a lot of new people to dog training. But really and truly, if it is I do the jump followed by send away every time, so I
Okay, I think we lose you there, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You just wait.
so
Okay. Yeah, we'll come back there now. Wait, Nick. Say, may I
Nick,
repeat
we
yourself?
lost you at every time I do the jump and the send away, we lost you at that point.
Right. So classical condition will happen. The dog will associate jumping with the send away coming after.
Yes.
So he will anticipate that the send away is coming. So if you look at the video when I did my IPO one, I think I posted that video with training with Norse after he did a jump. And when I was going to the send away position, he just was in overdrive. Because I use classical conditioning and it automatically triggered that send away. And that's how I get him to fly out on the send away like if he's on a chase. Because I created that anticipation. So you would have heard the concept of frustration in training, especially in bite work, where you want to frustrate the dog to make him bark or these different things. But what you have to understand is for frustration to happen, the dog must have hope. So the dog must have in his mind that he has the ability to capture. So if you're doing bite work, he must have the ability in his mind to think that he can grab that rag. But if it is that he's given his all in the training and he's not at any point getting the rag because you want to frustrate him and you want to see a certain behavior from the dog before you give him the bite, then what happens is that the dog starts losing hope and the intensity level will drop. But if it is that we give the rag easily the first few times, then the dog says, well, hey, I could get that easy. And then when he tries and he doesn't get it, then he says, but wait, I accustomed getting this. How come I'm not getting it now? And that is what builds frustration, and that's what will build the drive. So again, that's a misconception that people have in terms of building drive in a dog. It's important that the dog knows he can get the ball or he can get easily first, and then when you withhold it, then it becomes frustrating. So it becomes like you're getting your salary monthly every month, and then they don't pay you for this month. They tell you, well, boy, you have some problems, we can't pay you. That becomes frustrating. But if from day one, you're getting paid whenever, then that becomes the norm. You expect that will happen. So it's not as frustrating. You don't, whatever. It's just another day.
Yep.
So the same with the dogs.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Emil.
Well, Nicholas, I'm happy that you reinforced that point because we have always spoken about giving hope. We've always spoken about rewarding the smaller things. For instance, if you want the dog to spin fast, you can reward half a spin, and not wait till the dog starts to spin fast to start to give rewards, or even for like barking. Sometimes you reward a half a bark or like even a sound that not quite a bark, you reward it. And, gradually you get that. So plenty people be caring for things like that. Because sometimes what happens, we want to reward, we know where we want to be, but we only willing to reward where we want to be the final destination. And, you have to reward the slightest movement in that direction to build the behavior.
The other thing that you want to to create is a trigger. So you want to create a clear trigger for when you're going to start working and a clear trigger for when you end working. And that will help you in a trial. So for me, I use my collar, my choke chain as a trigger to start work. So from day one of the puppy, I'll put on the choke chain and then I will start working. Put on the choke chain, I will start working. So that the dog anticipates that the work is going to happen. So the drive level automatically goes through the roof. So when I go into a trial, I will put on my collar and the dog automatically goes straight into drive. I will have my same routine. I'll do a couple of waves, a couple of spins into the heel position, and then I heel out to the judge. So then that in itself puts the dog into a drive state. So in bite work is the same thing. If you tie out the dogs and you run up and down for an hour and then pass back and give the dog the bite, then eventually what happens, classical conditioning, the dog will associate the warm-up with the bite. And if you try to give the dog the bite before the warm-up, then you end up in problems. So I don't know if you remember the days when they used to have contests and that kind of thing. I used to be a decoy in those competitions then. And 99% of the dogs used to refuse to bite. And the reason for it is because back then it was a sweat fest. You go to your dog, you stand up in about 10 dogs in a line, a man run up and down, agitate the dogs, and then maybe on the second, third, or fourth pass, you give a dog a bite. So the dogs, without that warm-up, couldn't trigger. So if you want your dog that, as you walk out on that field, you can just get one command and turn that dog from 0 to hero. You understand? You have to understand how classical conditioning works.
You have to have a clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Nick,
it boils down to science. Everything that we do boils down to the science.
Yeah. Nick, there's a question that Krys asked that actually I myself wanted to ask you also, which is there a specific dimension for the box or a rule of thumb that we use when we making the box?
So you want the width of the box to be enough for the dog to go in comfortably, but you don't want it to be so wide that the dog can turn in the box.
Okay.
Because you want the dog to sit straight, down straight, stand straight. So with puppies, you could go 12 inches wide and maybe 36 inches long. That would be a fair dimension to work with puppies. That would take you to maybe when the dog is about 8 months old or so, I think.
Yeah. Well,
and depending on the size of the dog, if it is that the dog has a problem.
I know about to say Rottweilers might be a little less than that.
Your big boys.
You gotta double the size.
Yeah.
You gotta go 3 feet wide. Yeah, but you gauge by this basically the size of the dog.
Yeah.
And you know you work with a gauge from there.
Okay.
So Nicholas.
Okay, hold on. Sorry.
Good. Yeah.
Nicholas, we understand the negative, positive, the second positive. I didn't get clear on that.
Right. So in the box work, right? Because we releasing the pressure, that's the first negative. The second positive, right, would actually be the click is actually a positive because then it creates the hook. And then the third positive will actually be the food coming in. So the click becomes a positive reinforcer for the dog because of the association with the reward. You understand? So that's how it becomes NePoPo in that system. The other important thing in this system is that after a correction is always followed by a reward. So when we issue a correction to a dog, once the dog gets back into position, we follow that quickly with a reward. And that's for 2 reasons. One is that when you issue a correction, the cortisol levels goes up in the dog significantly. And you need to manage that throughout the training process, because if you keep building on that cortisol level, you start to create stress in the dogs. And it's important to manage stress when you're doing this level of training. So the reward, the ball reward, helps maintain that stress level. And the second thing is that we associate the correction with more of a guidance. than a punishment, if you understand what I mean. So it's almost like I'm telling you, well, that's not the right place, but I'm showing you, well, look, here's the right place. So it's almost like you're helping the dog get the reward. So the dog views it that way. So when you issue the correction, instead of the dog dropping and drive, he goes up and drive. And he goes up and drive into the correct position because he knows that reward is going to come when he gets into that correct position. So that's like psychology that we do with the dogs to increase drive levels. So it's the same like when they're using an e-collar to improve barking and thing in the blind. It's the same concept where you're pairing it with a reward. Once the correct behavior comes, the reward comes. So the old school ways, we issue a correction, and then dog come back in position, and it doesn't matter, right? Because all I'm interested in is telling you what you're doing wrong. I'm not interested in telling you what you're doing right. So it's important to create that clarity for the dog, and that clarity brings drive. So the dog is always pushing.
And in that case, Nick, the timing will be crucial when you do it.
Timing is, with marker training, timing is very crucial.
Right.
Very crucial. So I actually do, like when I'm doing training with group classes, I actually do exercises where I put somebody in front of the class. I don't tell them what I want them to do. The rest of the class, we gather as a group, we discuss, okay, we want this person to sit on that chair. And then we're going to just use the clicker to get that person to sit in the chair without telling him. So just by his movements, I would just click at the right time. And that will communicate to him, well, okay, I'm on the right track, it's something to do with this chair, you know, and that really helps with timing in that if you click at the wrong time, you could send that person a whole different direction. So if you click when he's looking away from the chair, you could move his focus totally away from that chair onto something on the other side of the room. So you understand the importance of timing through that exercise, you know. But marking at the right time. So that's why I tell people focus on the dog when you're training and focus on, okay, that's the behavior, bam, mark. The reward will come after. But what happens a lot of the time is everybody wants to fly to the reward before they even mark.
Right.
So they hand in the pouch or their hands on the reward, and then they create a different body posture. So in your training, your foundation training, you want your body postures to be as close to trial as possible. You don't want to have your hand in your pocket holding onto the reward or on the food, holding onto the reward to try and deliver it quickly. Because once you use the marker, that buys you time.
Right.
You mark, you go, you get the reward, and you deliver it.
Right.
It's a calm process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The other thing that people do too is, and I know I'm kind of talking a bit off topic to what I'm supposed to be talking on, but I just get carried away.
That's all right. Good.
Yeah, the other thing that people, do as well is they misunderstand what a reward is. So you would hear, especially when I'm doing law enforcement training, I hear a lot of praise your dog, praise your dog. And then a man gives off a mechanical, good boy, good boy. And they'll say, praise your dog louder, good boy. And the man shouting, good boy. But there's nothing in that behind that good boy. But if you again look at the laws of learning and understand that the dog is working to better his own situation, and then you assess that situation and you say, well, what is that bringing for the dog? How is that bettering the dog's situation? Is the dog enjoying it? Is that bringing any joy or any kind of relief for the dog? And it isn't.
Yeah.
Most of the times, actually, is more annoying than anything else.
Right. Unless
so
of
sometimes
course,
it's better to stay quiet.
Right. So, but unless, of course, Nick, if that good boy was, because we kind of had this discussion in the last thing that we had. Allan coming on. I know I see Allan there, but the good boy in itself is not rewarding unless there's a link that good boy would have brought a reward, like a marker then.
Correct. So what I do because I want to use good boy as a bridge.
Right.
What I will do is like, I will throw the ball, the dog goes, gets the ball, come back to me, and I'll be stroking the dog slowly on the sides. And I will be soothing the dog. And I'll be saying, good boy, good. So that the dog, through classical conditioning, will associate good boy with a soothing, calming, because remember, most of the times you want the dog to maintain that position.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, the good boy is not required. All is required is just understanding that the dog is doing what he's doing because he wants the food.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And the only reason why the verbal will have any impact is if it makes getting that food more exciting. So you might make some funny noises and move around in an exciting kind of tone, and you're moving in an excitement, and that is what will stimulate the dog. But the actual verbal, people talk too much when they're training, you know, and that creates gray areas, because like if a dog does a behavior and you're going to deliver a marker and you're talking one set of thing, good sit, good sit, good sit, good sit, the dog already sitting, you're already there. What he's more interested in is, I want to get my reward. You going good sit, good sit, good sit is not going to do anything for me. You know what I mean? So I will use the bridge very sparingly. I wouldn't be good, 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 good. I wouldn't be like that. I would just good. You know? Good. If you look at Ivan Balabanov videos, you'll hear him just every so often, he just say good. But because he would have paired that with that stroking outside of the training or separate from the exercise, the dog will associate it with, okay, good, you know, something happened. You know what I mean? So you're absolutely correct. It must be paired with something to mean something to the dog. Outside of that, it's just gibberish. It's just you. It's more the handler satisfying his own insecurities, because he thinks that he needs to be active and whatever. He do all these different things, and because he's supposed to praise the dog, because the instructor tell him to praise the dog, then he does it. But it means nothing, you know.
Okay. Allan, you want to chime in here a little bit, or I see Krys have?
I didn't. My board fell down after the last presentation, but I still have it here where I don't even see it. Praise is not a payment. Is more of a marker. That was from my last lecture there when we were talking about drive, and I am one to praise my dog probably quite a lot, but I am of the clear understanding that even with pet training, that you know, it's not really truly a reward for the dog per se. And as Kurt rightly added at the time that he said, it, you know, there are levels of reward, and it becomes a low level reward at some stage if you use it in the right way, you know. But to say that it starts as a reward and a dog does not understand English. They don't know what good boy means. You know, you have to bring meaning to that in some way or form, and you bring meaning to that by paying it or bridging it with a real reward. So that in itself is not a reward, you know, so to speak. Well, in my interpretation, understanding of it.
If the dog could speak, I'm sure you would say, well, boy, nah, hush. just feed me or give me a ball. But I really don't need to hear you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Because sometimes, you know, as you say that, sometimes you sit in the dog eyes, by you saying good boy, the dog just watching waiting to see which part that ball coming out from. You would see his eyes.
See too, what happens too, remember we be doing classical conditioning, right? So we are associating certain things with certain things. And if it is that you talking, then what does the dog associate with the reward? What does he associate with the release? What does he associate with the bridge? Yeah, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
When you just spurting out things all the time, the dog doesn't get to concentrate on what is actually need to be done, because he just doesn't know, well, where we're headed, where we headed with this. If you understand what I mean. So yes, the dog goes on tone, so that will have some impact. And yes, there are some dogs who are not food driven and not ball driven, and you may want to apply some physical. They may be crazy for you just to physically play with them. But
Yeah.
again, you identify that as what the dog loves. The
Yeah.
other thing is that you have to understand, because you're using a ball in training for years, it doesn't mean that this particular dog you're working with, he might like a tug.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that he needs to work with a star mark ball. You know, I get a lot of people call me because they see me doing training with a star. Where you get that from? I think, I think I got that from my dog. You know, it doesn't work like that. The dog selects what he really enjoys.
Yeah,
You know?
okay.
Of course, you can mold that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Krys, see you have your hand up there for a little while. You have a question?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, no, I asked. You have plenty questions. So this is my last one.
Ask.
Yeah. So we were talking about using. You said that the correction is the last thing of guiding the dog into doing the right thing. So I'm just a scenario.
It's what we call stimulus control.
Right. So if we have the dog is understanding, is beginning to understand you, and he's beginning to try to anticipate you to get the reward, right? And you say, okay,
Right.
dog going down, he goes and sit, but then you realize that's the wrong thing, right? And you want to guide him to do the right thing. But before that, he goes into a down. Is it that I reward or I ignore that because I feel like you'll be rewarding him to go in and sit then and down? So how in that situation would you use lead pressure, or you use a correction, or you not reward, or you ignore it and start over?
So not rewarding is also a form of punishment, right? So not rewarding is what will fall under negative punishment, right? So we will not reward a behavior that we don't want. Yeah? But where it becomes tricky is that you're breaking up there.
Krys, you're breaking up. Krys, I don't know if you're hearing us, but you're breaking up. Right, Nick, you go ahead. Go ahead with the explanation.
Yeah. So the tricky part is that anticipation is also a form of the dog showing you learning is happening.
Okay.
When the dog starts anticipating, it means that he starts understanding, and the only reason he will anticipate is because he understands what is going to come next. So a classic example is when you're teaching the dog to come into the heel position. So let's say you put the dog to sit in front of you, and then you tell the dog to come into the heel position. At some point in time, that dog is going to try to fly into that heel position without you asking it to.
Right.
Anticipation.
Right? And normally I would now reward that. And people say, why? Why I would reward that? Because definitely it is a sign that the dog is learning, and I don't want to ignore that sign. I want to encourage that sign. So I will allow the dog to do the anticipation, I'll reward it, and then once I see the dog is really proficient at doing it, then I will deconstruct it and then insist that the dog stay.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't discourage it, but at the same time, I wouldn't carry it on for the rest of the dog's career. Very soon, once the dog, maybe it over 2 sessions or so, I will get the dog to now hold the stay position before coming into the heel position. The other thing too with rewards is you have to understand that you need, just like you deconstruct your training, you need to deconstruct at what points you reward. So for instance, if you're training a recall, you want the dog to stay in the down, and then until you call the dog, you want the dog to come to you with a lot of speed and do a straight sit and then finish, right? But if it is that you train the down with the recall, with the heel, every time you train the recall, then what will happen is that the dog will start anticipating, because classical conditioning. The dog will associate it down with you walking down the field, standing up a certain way, and then you will call him, and then he comes to you, and then you tell him to heel. So he will anticipate all those steps. Once he starts understanding and learning it, he will anticipate those steps. So what you need to do is deconstruct that. You train your stay separate, you train the speed separate, you train the sit in front separate, and you train the heel separate. And then what you can do in your training, every so often you could combine all, or you could combine two, if you understand what I mean. But understanding when you reward. So for instance, I call the dog to me. He's flying up the field coming to me, and then he sits in front of me and I reward that. Right? He comes again, he flies into me, he sits, I reward that. Then he comes and he jogs to me, he sits, I reward that. Then he walks to me, he sits, I reward that. At no point in time did I reward the dog for speed. I'm only rewarding the dog for the sit. So to the dog, it doesn't matter how I come to you. It's just once I get there and I sit, then that is what I'm being rewarded for. Or if it is that you call the dog and you sit him and then you tell him to heel and you reward there and only there, then it is not in the best interest of the dog to come to you quickly, sit in front of you, and wait for the heel position. What is more important to him is getting into the heel position, because that's where he's going to be rewarded. So because the dog is working to better his own situation and get access to the reward, you have to understand that the timing at which you reward the dog, or the phase in the exercise at which you reward the dog, is equally as important. So sometimes when the dog is running towards me, I would click and reward the dog there. So I can reward speed. Then sometimes I will wait until he comes into the sit. Sometimes I'll wait until he almost reach me and then I'll reward. So he doesn't know at which point along the line the reward is going to come.
Nicholas,
so he's just going to continue going until the reward comes.
So Nicholas, you would say that apart from classic conditioning, you would say that is where conflict is important in the training.
Yes and no, but it's more important, I think, it's black and white.
Right.
To the dog. That understanding that at any phase of this exercise, you can be rewarded, and you will be rewarded at any phase because we're rewarding the different parts of the phases that you're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We were using the word conflict probably but in the same meaning that yes, it will be black. The dog understands that he doesn't know when, but he knows at any point in time there could be a big reward.
Yeah. So
that's a conflict.
It creates, yeah. So in heel work, it's the same thing. If
correct.
When you're healing, you start rewarding after one step. Again, in heel work, when you're teaching heel work, you must reward that first step. And that's how you will maintain focus on that first step. But
that's a good point
normally,
for you. We were discussing that.
We will just walk off few steps and then reward the dog. So the first step is never as important for the dog. And then again, that's where you need to deconstruct your training and understand the importance of rewarding at every point of your training. So in heel work, the first thing I want is the dog to remain focused on me static before I start to add movements. Every exercise I do, I make sure I get it static first before I add movement to the exercise. Because if the dog can't do it in a static position, he sure can't do it in a moving position. So what I will do is have the dog sitting next to me, focused. I will start to introduce distractions. And I will create very heavy distractions eventually. And once the dog is remaining and maintaining the focus, then and only then will I add movement to the heel work. You know what I mean? Yes, I was doing luring before, but in terms of where I put the ball under my arm or whatever, I will not add movement until the dog can sit in a static position, remain in focus under distraction. Because what a lot of people do is they'll put the dog to sit, they'll go off healing and add distraction to it and expect that the dog will remain focused. He wouldn't.
It's too much variables.
That's the reality of it. He wouldn't.
It's not fair to the dog.
Yeah.
We have a question, Nicholas, from Joseph. And he was referring to when you spoke about variable reward schedules. He was asking, his question is, what development metric, a schedule you use to decide how often you reward?
Right. So it's basically the level of the dog's concentration. So if it is that I'm able to, once I start rewarding rapidly, and I wait 2 seconds, and I reward the dog, then I know, well, okay, he's okay with 2 seconds. So then I know I can maybe push it a little further. I can go to maybe try maybe 4 seconds. If when I go to 4 seconds, the dog loses focus, then I know 4 seconds was a bit too much, so I will go to 3 to create that bridge before I go back to 4. But what is important is that when I go to 4 and 5 and 6, it doesn't mean that I'm constantly waiting until then. Sometimes I'll go back to 1. Just like in heel work, because a dog can do a full routine, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't reward him for a few steps or 1 step, or just sitting and focusing.
Yeah.
You know, so rewards must consistently come in every part of your exercise.
So Nicholas,
And
that's
where
the black and white
the
part.
secondary school comes in.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the black and white part of it.
Yeah, but it is also the secondary school of training.
Yeah.
With the help and reward, no help reward, you know.
Yeah.
That's the secondary part of it.
Right. Nick, Ajamu has a question, I believe. Ajamu, go ahead.
For me, it has something still not clear from some things what I would have learned, right? So my question is, in terms of training, right? How to phrase the question? So you know it have this how is reward related to the release of dopamine in the dog brain, right? So how is important is the release of dopamine in the dog brain in terms of the dog actually getting the reward? How is the link and how is important one is to the other?
Well, the dopamine would be directly associated with the value of the reward. So, of course, the higher the value of the reward, the higher the dopamine release will be. And
would you say the anticipation is of the reward similar to Pavlov, right? And class and conditioning certain markers before the reward, classical conditioning is directly related to the release of dopamine in the dog's brain, which makes the dog feel good.
So, so that is why it's important that once you deliver that marker, that release marker, that a reward follows every time. Because what you don't want to do is to break the trust of the dog. You understand? So I can't use a clicker as a bridge marker, but I have to teach a dog that the click means that you hold your position and you're not done as yet. And then maybe I can use a verbal as a release marker.
Right.
So you would see some people using a click, 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 right? To communicate to the dog. And that's the equivalent of saying good boy, good.
Right. So that's where my question coming, right? If you use classic conditioning and the dog anticipating the reward and the dopamine is released, is the same way like the clicker, good boy. If they use classic conditioning, good boy will have some meaning to the dog in that a reward is coming. And the anticipation before the reward come will actually release the dopamine in the dog, release the dopamine and have the dog actually.
So a good sign of the level of dopamine release is the dog's reaction when he gets the release. When he gets that click, what is the dog's reaction? And that'll give you a fair idea of what level of dopamine. I mean, of course, you have to know the dog and know the activity level of the dog. So like a dog like Norse, when I give the marker, he goes through the roof because he has a massive, he's just an overdrive when that happens because he knows the ball is coming. And because the ball carries a very high value, it will send it through the roof. So if you want to look at levels in rewarding, so you have a variable reward schedule and then you have an intermittent reward schedule. So the intermittent reward schedule is where you reward some of the times and you don't reward some of the times. And then you have the variable reward schedule, which will say, well, okay, if you do something okay, I will reward you with food. But if you do it real great, I'll reward you with the ball. You know, so you can also use that as a tool to assist in terms of delivering rewards. Or sometimes you may have a dog that is ridiculously high drive with the ball, and I will use food for all the exercises more or less, because I'll be able to keep the dog training for much longer, and then I will deliver the ball sparingly. So the ball becomes even higher value for the dog, but the dog knows it's going to come, but the food will allow him to stay at a drive level that he can continue learning. So the reason why, I guess you all have done drive, talk about the different drive levels with food and ball and whatever, and the bike pillow and etc., right?
Yeah.
And a major problem in bite work is where people go to the highest drive state and then try to teach control. You understand? So you will teach your dog to bite, chase, thing, and go crazy for the sleeve, and then try to teach him control in that state. And when the dog is in that state, he's not in the state of mindful learning. It's like taking a child, putting them in a play park and trying to teach him math for the first time. It's going to be very difficult. So in bite work, even with police dogs, personal protection dogs, is the same concept. That whole fantasy about bad dog and real dog, and there's really a whole lot of shit. Because most of the people talking that talk is because they don't have the intellect level that will allow them to discuss things on a different level.
Yeah.
Right? At least on that topic, right? What basically is important to do is to understand just like in obedience, we will teach with food first, and because it's a lower drive state, and we can do many repetitions. I can do the same with bite work. I will teach at a lower drive state, so maybe I'll start with food with some exercises, then go to the ball. Once the dog is ready for the ball, then I'll go to the bite pillow. From the bite pillow, then I will go to doing it on the sleeve. Then I'll give somebody the bite pillow or somebody the sleeve, and start to escalate it like that. But I wouldn't go from all out the dog biting thing and then try to put in the control there. No, not that it doesn't work, eh? I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but what I'm saying is there's a much better way and easier route that you can take that would be more fair to the dog. Because once you create the pictures for the dog in a lower drive state, there's nothing to transfer. So in many of my classes, I would have taught guys to out the dog off of a ball first. If the dog can't out of a ball, he will not out off of a man. That's the reality of it. It just doesn't make sense, if you know what I mean. So first we teach the dog to out of a ball. Does it impact the bite work in any way? No, it doesn't. And literally, in 90% of the cases, the dog will bite the sleeve with venom, bite, grip properly, and the first time you tell that dog to out, the dog will spit out the sleeve, because he's conditioned to understand what out means. And he understands that when he outs, he doesn't lose the sleeve, or he doesn't lose the person, or he doesn't lose the bite. All that happens is that he gets a re-engage and the fight starts back. So if you teach a dog that every time you out, you lose, then the dog is less likely wanting to out, because again, he's working to better his own situation, and there's not anything in that to better his situation there. So that's where the applying the science to every aspect of the training is becoming more and more and more important now. And the more and more studies that they do, I do a lot of I do a lot of research I search for a lot of research papers that are being done in universities all across Europe and even in the US. And it's really amazing the kind of things that they're uncovering now in terms of learning patterns of dogs and how they learn and better ways of teaching them. So it's important to assess it. If it doesn't make sense scientifically, then really and truly it's not going to happen the way you want it on the field. Or even if you get it and the dog is working at this level, just know that that is probably 75% or 70% of what the dog can actually do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just much better ways of teaching dogs now. It's not that what was happening before was wrong. It's just, or it would not work, but it's just a better ways now of teaching dogs. Allan, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, and I am somebody who always advocating for things like that to try to teach it an easier way.
Yeah.
You know, I always say as a trainer, if I see another trainer getting the same result as me, but it's done easier or less pressure on the dog, I am the first person to grab that method and run with it. You know, and we talk a lot about myself and Roger. We always talk about preparing the dog for the helper away from the helper. I mean, you're taking it a step further. You know, even with the helper work, you want to do certain things, even in a lower level of drive, or even without any set of heavy stimulation. Me personally, I like to get puppies doing things at a certain level, and then I could pull back and you know, have the handler do a lot of work on their own with the dog and clarify a lot of exercises away from the cracking of the whip and the helper in front of him and you know, the pre-drive and defense drive and all of that, you know.
So just as we in the obedience, we break down exercises and we reward our different parts of the exercises and then put it together, then the bite work and the intensity of the bite work can happen as a separate exercise. So you could work on intensity and grips and all these different things, entries, all those are things that you work as separate exercises. So the control part of it, if you think of it logically, there's no reason why the control part of it can't be worked on separately and then combine it with the high intensity bite work. But all you're doing is you're preparing the dog to a much better standard in terms of understanding what is expected of it. So all you're doing is just teaching the dog, okay, when I say out, it means a release, right? As opposed to go and bite, get crazy, and you know how dogs get in bite work. They go ape shit. A good dog would blank you out and just focus on that bite and just be going crazy.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean. So a dog like that, especially high drive dogs, is much better. You get much better results if you're able to teach the control part of it separate from the actual bite work, and then you combine the two.
The thing about it is that you don't lose intensity. I think the dog actually
get more intensity,
more powerful.
Yeah, you maintain intensity. That's what happens there, you know. And the same thing with the classical conditioning, right? Because if you drive your dog and you freeze, long ago, you used to have what you call an automatic out.
Yeah.
And you know, we used to say, well, oh, this dog real bad. Why you want to say out and the dog out in? But we didn't know back then that it was classical conditioning, that the dog was associating freezing with outing. So now we know, well, okay, when we freeze, we don't want the dog to out. We want the dog to out only on command. So we freeze, and then we go back into a fight. We freeze, we go back. With police dogs, I teach when the person getting bitten says out, he say out and follow with more fight. Out followed by more fight. And through classical conditioning, when that person says out, so if a person tries to out the dog off of them, the dog goes into more fight. When the handler says out, then the dog will out. You know what I mean? So if the assailant says out, it means more fight, digging deeper. So it's all about applying the science, and it's simple things. They're just following one step with the next, one step with the next, one step with the next, and then it becomes the exercise.
So Nicholas, like I said, with the presentation, I mean, I want to thank you for the information you imparted so far. But, you know, I think we only just about halfway there. So we want to plan another session right away where you could actually put the videos, or I don't know if you should share the videos with us.
Yeah.
We know you.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
If you share the videos with us prior to the next session, or you do some demonstration with a dog or something like that, you know. You know, I really want I want to take it to that level of understanding. So if people are going to use it as part of the program, they have a clear understanding. I mean, I will assist.
Yeah, I have some new puppies coming this this weekend. So maybe sometime next week I'll start working them, and you would see the steps very quickly how I start them, and you know by the time they're 12 weeks old, they're already starting to sit down and stand in the box.
Yeah.
You know.
So maybe we could plan another
quickly.
session where you have some videos presented for us or something like that you could narrate and show the work, because you know, I mean, we basically have only new handlers here.
Yeah, and there's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, there are a lot of terms that may fly over people's head, and they may not ask the question, but you know, and then some things they may think they understand, but it's not totally clear. So you know, to bring it home.
Yeah, what I try to do is just give a total overview of the steps and where it heads, where it leads to, and the reason why we do these steps. But in terms of the intricacies of it, we still have a lot of micro steps involved there that you need to be aware of with the training, you know?
Yeah. All right, but I mean, I will talk with you otherwise so that we could, because we have one or two dogs doing some of the work, so we could probably use that as a instructive class that you could actually, you know, give some instructions, because I mean, I'm doing it with my dog and one or two other people.
Yeah.
So while some of the dogs have passed it, at least we want the handlers to have an understanding, just to broaden their understanding of dog training on the whole, you know?
Yeah, of course, no problem. No problem.
Yeah. All right.
So do we have any more when you want me to come on and we make arrangements? Yeah,
well, I mean, you see everybody on still. I think we have all of like 20 people.
Everybody going to sleep with.
No. If
we here.
Two people left. So if you start with enough the discussion there, you're on till about 1 o'clock in the night, which is our normal time.
Yep.
Don't get it twisted at all.
Yeah.
But you know, just to keep things in check.
I feel like I'm a mad scientist training now.
Yeah. So maybe Nicholas, I may invite you to our next session where we run a session as how we would normally do it, with the actual, to see where the dogs are at, and maybe that could give you an idea, and give a little additional input. You know, to supplement our work is always something we welcome.
Yeah, cool.
Once you get permission to be up in the night talking dog, this hour of the night.
Yeah. I think at 4 o'clock in the morning. So.
Okay.
All right. Well, on that note, if we don't have any more questions, I would, Aaron, I don't know if you have any questions there.
No, we don't have any questions. Or anything like that. Yeah.
I would ask. I think we have. We have quite a few on here at the moment. We can
always have like tons of development videos on.
Yeah, share a few. I mean, I would put it up in the chat.
Page. Yeah, tons and tons of videos there.
Right. Fantastic.
All these different levels of training.
If we get a few, and even if you decide to, you know, we could look at them while in the chat, and you could explain, you know. That's something we could do. We could share the screen.
Yeah.
Where Aaron could get the videos. Aaron could share his screen, and you could do the voicing over for the session. You know, that's one way of approaching it.
Yeah. No problem.
You can send them to me, and I could show them.
Yeah. But one thing, we could run the video for our actual session while Nicholas explains one time.
Yeah.
The videos being played. You know.
Yeah.
So I think Stephan, are you still in the chat?
That idea with the videos. Sorry, that idea with the videos is
Courtney, your question?
No, not a question. It's a comment. I'm saying that idea with the videos is an excellent one, because I, for one, learn better if I could see it done, and even better if I get to practice it, try it for myself. So you know, as good as this session has been, I must say that when we're doing next time, if we could get some visuals, it would help me.
Sure. A bit. Yeah. I agree with you. So I think Nicholas has a lot of videos, so we could pass them on to Aaron. Aaron will be able to play them from his device, and Nicholas could speak and explain while it's going on. And Nicholas have a real good dog there. I don't know why he don't dust the cobweb off for him. But I mean, there's a lot of cobweb to dust off, but you know, so to see. But Stephan,
he's enjoying a nice life now.
Yes. But Stephan, I know you need chat. So Stephan, I would like you to give to give the closing comments and a vote of thanks, please.
Sure, great. Nicholas, this has really been a wonderful session for our team. I think it couldn't have been done better. I echo the sentiments that for it to all come together, the visuals will definitely assist us, and we will definitely look forward to having you again here with us. All right. Thank you again.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, and it was really nice being here. And then, as I said, you know, I really appreciate you all bringing me on to you know, to share some of the knowledge that I've learned over the years. So, you know, we're in this together. We're about pushing things forward, right?
Well, Nicholas, you know, you're not a stranger. I will let the other members know that you are not a stranger to our club, because even when we had our, like, a little mock trial and so on, when, I mean, I would call you to be the judge. So they might see you judging. You might be judging somebody's here in this group here soon in a little mock trial. You know, and even training, because I know you still want to work some sport dogs as well. So with that being said, Roger, do you want to say anything? I know you are here still, I believe.
Come on, Miss Roger.
Roger is there, man.
Yes, sir. Raji.
Roger, you know how to unmute? You know how to unmute?
Right.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you, Aaron, for unmuting me. No. I was listening attentively all the time, and you know, everything was explained very clearly. I mean, of course, some of us will understand a little more than others based on our own experiences and so on. And it was very informative, and I learned quite a lot. I have never done any setup box work or anything like that. So, but the concepts of the learning system and so on is very clear to me, because we apply that basically in most of our other types of training. It cuts across the board really, and the box work could only read down to improvement for most of the people here anyhow, you know, or at least the application of the system. And I would urge especially the newer people to try it, because it allows them to get a lot faster learning curve for both themselves and the dog, with the least amount of stress and work and all of that kind of thing. You know, the condition under which it operates, I think is very beneficial for newer handlers to work with, to learn faster and to get greater results. So I was very happy from the beginning to when Allan had mentioned it to me. I was quite happy to let Nicholas come and share some of this knowledge, because I mean, he has made a success of it, you know, and I think people can only benefit from it, you know. So I look forward to whatever else comes, and hope that the people who were exposed to this part of it not be afraid to try it and see how they can benefit from it. So thank you very much, Nicholas.
Yeah, thank you, Roger. Thank you. And at any point in time, you know, you'll feel free, if you have any questions, you can always just reach out to me. And once I get a little time, for sure, I would answer, because you know I wear plenty hats. So
yeah,
in any given day.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, so for sure. But I just want to end on this note. Two things that I want to keep in mind is patience and persistence. And I'm kind of using that as my motto now. Patience and persistence. That's the key thing.
Correct. Yep.
Results will come.
Yep. Patience and persistence.
All right, guys. So, yep.
Okay, everyone.
All right.
Was that, Allan?
Yeah.
I have patience, but I do have persistence. Once I start, I have the patience and I'm going through these steps. But you see, I might miss about 2-3 days.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was beautiful, you know. So,
Yeah.
guys, if nobody has any further comments, I think we could say a good night.
Yeah.
Well, Allan, before we go,
sorry.
Some people persist, but they're not patient enough. And that is
like who? So like who?
Don't call him. Don't call him.
This is a group. This is a group you can get yourself in deep water very fast. Now,
Roger, you sure we're turning off the recording now?
Notwithstanding, I'm a licensed diver, but however, I don't necessarily want to get into that kind of water at this stage.
Oh,
I am just saying it as a word of caution and a word of how should I say, to help people and remind them they ought to be patient.
Yeah.
We've been stressing this from the very beginning.
Yep.
We've been stressing the need to enjoy the dogs and to allow them to have some level of enjoyment as puppies, to build that bond and so on. The results will come.
Yeah.
The results will come. Okay, whether you're doing box work, whether that you're doing other forms of training. Nicholas said something tonight. I don't know if everybody heard it, but he said that he did many other forms of training and he studied many other forms of training. But it's when he studied the NePoPo system with the box training and that kind of thing, is then he understood the other forms of training better.
Yeah.
And it was a eureka moment for him. I don't know if I'm quoting Nicholas badly or I am misrepresenting what he said.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Right. And I would like to draw people to that point because a lot of what Nicholas would have said here tonight, we would have said in so many ways before, whether we prior to the COVID with on the field and so on, and in this platform and this forum, right, in this format. But it's for us to be able to now link them and see where those similarities are and where those common features are. Because if you really look at it, there's a lot of that's what it is.
A lot of overlap.
We could not be sitting down here speaking to Nicholas or Nicholas speaking to us if there wasn't some marriage or some consistent or some common basis in the training that we do. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Nicholas to sit there with his video dragging an hour behind and so on and explain these things to us. And for most people to have such, well, you have a lot of intelligent people here, I imagine, but the thing is, it would not even be possible. So I want to go back to that point where the drawer Nicholas spoke about it. We don't need to travel that long road that Nicholas did to get to that eureka moment, that light bulb moment. Most people don't need to, because you can benefit from this experience and the experiences of Nicholas and myself and whoever else to improve your learning curves, right? But so that is the one thing. And then the other thing is the patience part. Please, I have been almost every time we've had this thing and I've had the chance to say something, I think in the end I stress that more than anything else, because what I would hate to see is people, your dog know a million things, but the quality of it and the aesthetic and the beauty of it is lacking somewhere down the road. When you want to go in front of a judge, you realize you need to start over with another dog. When it is not the problem of the dog, I think Nicholas may have reinforced that point as well, right? It is us who need to understand where we went wrong, where we missed steps and so on. But at the end of the day, Nicholas stressed also about being fair to the dog, right? If the dog doesn't know what he's being punished for, or she is being punished for. See, these are the critical things for me that I hope, I would like to reiterate so that people mark those things down and take them forward, all right? Because I'm sure everything else will come over the next many sessions or whatever, all right? So please, everybody have a pleasant night and yeah, have a pleasant week, okay?
Yeah, thanks, Raj. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys. So Thursday again. All right.
Yeah.
Please,
so Nicholas will be in contact with you, and between here and myself, we will set up the next session.
Yeah.
So Monday, Tuesdays and Thursdays are working up in the prison. So Monday,
Mondays
Wednesday, Friday
is the best days for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we refer to night
weekends.
sessions.
On weekends. What's that?
We refer in night as well.
Yeah. Well, no. I see. By the time I'm done there, then I come down to my office to do my regular day's work.
Yeah. It
It
could be another.
Yeah. I don't have any gas when I'm done there.
Yeah. Understandable.
Weekend works well.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah,
Nicholas.
so weekends should be good too.
All right. Okay, Kim, you were saying something?
No, just saying thanks.
Okay, good. Nicholas, we have we have high drive dogs and higher drive handlers. So
yeah,
I mean that's it. And that's why one of our biggest cautions is to have patience and things like that, because
the handlers channel is drive, right?
Yep.
The handlers are all enthusiastic. So, and that's the beautiful part about the members that we have right now. They're not lacking enthusiasm. What we have to always do is caution them to understand, it's 3-month-old puppies, it's 6 or 7-month-old puppies, You're now learning, take it. But I think, to be honest, it's not a bad problem to have. If we were lacking enthusiasm, it would be a bigger problem.
Yeah. But as Roger said, though, is the learning curve now for people coming into dogs now because of initiatives like what you're doing. And we have people around with a fair knowledge base now to pass on what I, as he said, what I took 20 years to learn, now people can learn, and I teach people in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it really is a really good time coming into the dog world. But I in this close to 30 years now, and I am still pursuing learning like if it's day one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it continuously change.
Yeah.
How I trained 3 years ago and how I train now is different.
Yeah. And Nick, also with each dog, I find it's like a new experience.
It is. And that's the beauty in it. For me, that's what captures me. That is what has kept me in it for so long, is because you always have new things to learn and better ways. And for me, now getting into the psychology of it a lot more, it really is. I mean, you understand so many things in life now so much better. It's amazing. It really is. It's fulfilling.
We have a lot of good times ahead.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. You have a lot of good times.
All right. Good night, guys.
All right, folks. Have a good night.
Reach their bedroom safely.
Good night. Yeah.
That's the best part of this. It just roll over.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Later. Okay.
Thanks again.
Okay,
Thanks again, Nick.
No problem.
Yeah.
All right,
Thanks again.
Cheers. Yeah, man. Bye.